What's up, everyone? How's it going? I can't believe it, but I have to believe it. We made it to Friday again. I don't know how you're all feeling, but I hope you're doing good, and if not, well, maybe we can spend some time together and I can make your day a little better. Now, my week's been weird, I guess is the best word for it. Nothing happened, it's just it feels weird. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, I have a few cool things to talk about in this episode of the Leaf Podcast. I have a 3,000-year-old city that was unearthed in Guatemala. It's a Mayan city. And this article claims to have found a UFO base that's been uncovered in the Alaskan Triangle. And we're going to kind of talk about some high strangeness that happens around there. And I have another encounter with a Navajo Skinwalker by two military personnel. And if there's anything else, I guess we'll wait and see what we get into. So the first one that I would like to talk about is the Mayan City that was discovered in Guatemala. And there's also a video to go with this. I'll put it in the description. I don't speak Spanish, it's all in Spanish. Half the time I have a hard enough time with the English language, so I'll let everybody view that on their own time. But the video is pretty interesting. So here's what happened. Some archaeologists have unearthed the remains of a Mayan city. Now, this Mayan city is nearly 3,000 years old, and this is in northern Guatemala. There's pyramids, monuments, and everything else that kind of point to it as being some kind of important, like ceremonial or spiritual site. The city itself is said to be named Los Abuelos, which is Spanish for the grandparents, which already, a city by the name of that would kind of bring my mind to something like ancestor worship, or if not ancestor worship, like paying tribute to your ancestors. And I know that there are many cultures throughout the world even now that still pay tribute to their ancestors. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that I say a few years ago, but it could have been 10 or 15 years ago now. I get so caught up in time. I heard on a classic rock station a song from when I was a teenager, so that really kind of made me feel old. But anyways, I think it's called hell money or something like that, but it's these bills that people burn for their ancestors. And I heard about that a few years ago. There was also a case of a Japanese politician who paid tribute to his ancestors on TV, which people thought that was a bit dated, but for me, I think there's no issue paying tribute to those who came before you and those who made you the person that you are now. And I'll get back to the hell money in a second, but we'll not get too far off track here of what we're talking about with the Los Abuelos. This Mayan city stood about 21 kilometers or 13 miles from another very important archaeological site of Huachactún in northern Guatemala. Now, this is dated to what is known as the Middle Pre-Classic period, from about 800 to 500 BC. And it's believed to be, quote, one of the most ancient and important ceremonial centers of the Mayan civilization in the jungle area of Petén near the Mexican border. The Culture Ministry said that, quote, the site presents remarkable architectural planning with pyramids and monuments that are sculpted with unique iconography from the region. And I think it kind of slipped through the cracks for me because I didn't hear anything about it. But back in April, in the same area of Guatemala, there was a 1,000-year-old altar that was found, which makes me think that you never know how far these cultures extended, because they always talk about there being pyramids in the Florida Everglades. And another example from here in Canada is, so our plains region extends all the way down through to Oklahoma, I think. And when I say our plains region, I mean like in the idea of North America as we see it now. The Great Plains area extends prairies in Canada, which takes up 3 provinces, and then goes all the way down to like Oklahoma, and I think some of our rivers also run into the Mississippi River. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that there were ancient cultures that have just come and gone. And it's wild to even think about, like, what you could be standing on 10,000 years ago may have been the site of like a great building or something like that, but there's just nothing left of it. It kind of makes you think about how temporary the things that we build are versus how long the earth has been here. And you kind of wonder how many civilizations have come and gone in the past, especially when you look at a website called dinosaurpictures.org, where you can like see where your city would have been located like 100 and some million years ago. And I know we don't have proof of like humanity being around then, but it's just cool to think about like what was there, what was going on there during that time, what animals were there that we have never even discovered now, what animals were there that are still around but we haven't found. And that's also not urban legends of creatures are essentially leftovers from these time periods. And again, that's not even to take into account, yet again, the things that could be found on Antarctica. I know that we have lots of stories and lots of people who say they saw weird things there. Some people say they saw pyramids or temples or things like that. And it would be pretty insane to see something in Antarctica like that. Of course, even though I live in Canada, I'm not a huge fan of the extreme cold, and I have no scientific background, so there's no chance of me ever going to Antarctica. But it would still be super cool if that's true to see like the pyramids there. And better yet, if they are hiding something like that, I don't know why they would. That's just cool as hell. And it's also like, you see those monuments. Like, I think there was one at the bottom of Lake Michigan that had elephants on it. And I'm thinking, why would they want to hide that? So what if there were elephants here in North America? That's cool. So what if there were saber-toothed tigers here in North America? That's also really cool. I don't understand why the scientific establishment likes to hide things. I know it can go against like years and decades of research, but I feel like that's the purpose of it all. If we find out something new that reshapes everything, then it reshapes everything. We can continue on with this new knowledge, recognizing that where we were going with it may have been a little misguided, and we continue on for the better. But I'm also not a scientist. I don't know what I'm talking about. I have a very idealistic view of it, so I guess that's where all that comes from. But anyways, what I was mentioning about hell money, if you've never heard of it before, the belief is that in the afterlife, your ancestors still have other lives where they can still buy things, and they still have like jobs and marriages and stuff and soul families and all that kind of thing. I don't know if the two actually go together, but it's my understanding that they're all kind of related. But yeah, so what you do is you take this hell money, or whatever you want to call it, it's called other things too, but essentially you burn it over like a little altar, and you have a picture of your ancestors, or some people just burn it while thinking of them, and yeah, it gives them like spending money in the afterlife. They may also do it frequently to ask their ancestors for help, to help them in their day-to-day life. But yeah, when I read about this discovery in Guatemala, it really made me think of all those things about ancestor worship. So I will leave that in the description, that article as well as the video. And next up is this article from the Daily Mail. It says, "Certified CIA document that has fueled a surge in UFO sightings, turning Mount Hayes into one of America's top alien hotspots." Mount Hayes is over 8,000 feet in height and also sits within the Alaska Triangle. I also found it a little funny how in the first sentence it says a UFO base was mentioned in a declassified CIA document, and then a few sentences later it says the CIA has never confirmed the alien base and the US government's stance is that ETs don't exist. Now, that being said, aside from the little funny anecdote there, the locals report lots of colored streaks, orbs traveling at high speeds, and, of course, vanishing people. A former security officer, Jared Augustine, says that he saw a glowing orb hovering over the night sky, near the mountain, before it suddenly split into three. And of course, one of the modern things that people talk about, especially with UFO bases and stuff, is the missing data that's on Google Maps, and this is the case with Mount Hayes. There's chunks of missing data all over the mountain, which has a lot of people on the internet. By a lot of people, I mean the people in the comments of these pictures. Some of them say that it's a cover-up, that they're covering up some kind of military base, some kind of ET base. But the main reason why I decided to cover this or go over it is because the Alaska Triangle has always interested me. I never did get a chance to do a video on it. I hope to someday, but I don't know when. But in this article, it does kind of give little tidbits about mysterious disappearances that have happened over the years around the Alaska Triangle and Mount Hayes. So some of these would include a notable incident, the 1972 disappearance of a plane that was carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, when the plane just vanished en route to Juneau from Anchorage. And they searched for this plane for 39 days that covered 325,000 square miles, but found nothing, no wreckage, no remains, or anything. Another one mentioned is in December 2 years ago, in 2023, Brian Erickson was reported missing after departing the village of Healy Lake on a green Polaris Ranger side-by-side. He was last seen December 2nd, 2023 at 4 p.m. Search efforts were initiated, and the operation transitioned from a search and rescue to search and recovery. The article goes on to say that some people locally have suggested that these disappearances have something to do with the strange activity near the mountain. Now, of course, since this is a very remote area, there's not a lot of people, and resources would be pretty sparse. You can imagine how things like this could just get lost. That people could just get lost, or people could just go out and never return into the snow. But it is really weird how all this activity is around Mount Hayes, and it says that Mount Hayes is situated within an area stretching between Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik. I probably butchered that last one, but I'm kind of using the pronunciation strategies from the Inuit names that we have here in Canada. And now the more interesting part of this is that Mount Hayes has been mentioned in Project Stargate. So Project Stargate is when the CIA recruited people they believed, or those people believed they had psychic abilities, and they would try to use these abilities for military intelligence purposes. As far as I know, the program was officially shut down in 1995 after they deemed it militarily unreliable or something like that. I don't remember the exact wording, but for me, I kind of wonder if it's still going on, and they did find something. And the reason why that I found the remote viewing aspect of this very interesting is because what they would do is they would give you a set of coordinates, and then you would just sketch down what you would see. And apparently, one particular remote viewer was given coordinates, and he saw a rocky mountain. He saw an ET base. He said that he was inside of a facility beneath Mount Hayes, where he observed two types of entities associated with the site. He described these two beings as standing outside one of the bases, quote, accomplishing some sort of routine task. And then he said inside the base there were two more entities. One of them was seated at a circular console with a round screen-like object, according to the session notes anyways. The second figure was performing some other task in the background. And, of course, I can't mention remote viewing without talking about the guy that I can never remember his name, but they gave him the coordinates, and he saw Mars like 1,000,000 years ago or something, and there were like beings there. They were tall beings with skin-tight suits. They were inside some kind of pyramid that was near a ledge, and they had had the atmosphere of Mars stripped away. And I think that the being had said that they have lived long past their time and age. So that was very interesting, and I still think of that sometimes. So whenever I hear remote viewing brought up, I'll think of that. But let me know what you think. Do you think that there is a military base or a ET base near Mount Hayes? What do you think about the Alaskan Triangle? And I will leave the article to this because I know that they're declassified, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm allowed to use the pictures or not. So I'll just leave the article because it's in one of the galleries. There's 7 images in it, and you can go look at that in the description. And the last thing I have for you today, or I think it's the last thing, is this really weird encounter from the 1980s. This whole thing is retold by the nephew of the person that this happened to. The person is just called Bob. Now, apparently Bob was a new soldier in the army in 1985. And at the time of this incident, he was on fence patrol at their base in Arizona. Now, he and his partner are making their rounds, and as they came to this one area, they heard what they call an anomalous noise. It came from behind them. They turned to see something strange, and this is what they said about it. When they turned around, they saw an old man dressed in buckskin with long hair and braids. Bob described it as being so gray that it almost glowed. The man was standing approximately 30 feet behind them. Both men drew their weapons, as the man was in a shoot-to-kill area, with warning signs that were all over the place. Neither Bob nor the other man wanted to shoot anybody. They figured that he must have Alzheimer's, and that he had wandered into the base or something by accident. After all, he was not being threatening toward them. He appeared quite harmless. The man then shouted to the old man, telling him that he was in a restricted area and that he needed to put his hands in the air. Bob thought that they would walk him to the post call and call the local police department, who would be able to get him back home or get him some help. Bob tried the radio, but it was just static. It wouldn't work. Calling his friend to help, both he and Bob turned to tinker with the walkie-talkie, and although they only looked away for maybe half a second, when they turned back, the old man was just gone, and in his place was a massive cottontail rabbit just sitting there, watching them. Now, as you can imagine, the 2 men were a little bewildered. They looked around to try and find the old man, thinking that he couldn't have gone far, but he was nowhere. He was just vanished, and all that was in front of them was just this rabbit. After a few minutes, they had no choice but to continue on with their duty, and shortly after, they heard a similar noise again, but this time from the opposite side of the perimeter fence. When they looked, they were shocked to see that old man again. He was standing on the other side, still just observing them, staring at them. And again, this time, he was inside the fence. This was a 10-foot fence that was decked out with alarms, razor wire, and everything else, but he somehow got in. At this point, this scared the 2 enough to quickly just get out of the area, and they never spoke of it with their commanding officer. And of course, given that it was Arizona, your mind can't help but go to a Skinwalker or a dark shaman. Another name that I've heard for them, like the English word anyways, is Raven Mocker, which I'm thinking, what would it want in this military base? Was it just observing, just to see if it could do it? Was it trying to scare them? It's really hard to say, but let me know what you think about it. In fact, let me know what you think about all the stuff I covered in this episode. If you have something that you'd like to see me cover in another podcast I Can't Talk, then let me know down in the comments. And if you've sent in a story and I haven't covered it yet, I'm probably just trying to figure out where to fit it in, kind of in the schedule, where to fit the story in, where to fit it in if it takes up a whole video, just trying to get it all in there. So, if you have a story of your own that you haven't sent to me, feel free to send me a story, and I'll try to get back to you. I get a lot of spam emails too, so I don't always get back to someone, because sometimes I don't even get the alert that I have an email at this point. So just be patient, I guess is all I can ask for it. But anyways, if you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. feel free to like the video, share the video, and comment and all that great stuff. If you would like to donate to the channel, there's 4 ways you can do that. There's a Patreon, a PayPal, memberships, and super thanks. And with all of that, I hope to see you on Sunday. I hope you enjoyed the videos this week, and I hope that you'll stick around for next week. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.